Any questions?
Yeah. What is REDM on this?
It's draw. It's a W.
Oh, draw.
Yeah. That's like, this looks like off. This looks like off instead of you, from the direction. Yeah, Dave.
So about that.
Yeah.
So as I was copying, I noticed that I flipped the words. Do you find it as a pattern that if you're putting labels around the outside, that you orient them towards the middle so that it's where it's not? Like, what's that?
Yeah.
I know that's over.
No. So Dave was asking a specific question about orienting text. Because I'm more kinesthetic and often I'm giving people objects that they can move around, I'll break these kind of rules more often. I think a lot of people would be more inclined to face this outward so that they're all oriented the same way. But again, because I'm willing to be more sort of do things like this, I'm less worried about it. It's my threshold's lower. Yeah.
Do you have this online that you could print it out?
I do.
Okay.
On here, yeah, loosetooth.com. It actually has loosetooth.com/sketchcamp13. Actually, I don't have the PDF yet, but I'll post that on the page.
Right, thanks.
Yeah, sure.
This is going to get destroyed on the way out.
What's that?
It's going to get destroyed on the way out.
Fair enough. It's meant to be used. Do you want to do this? Totally fine. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Well, I guess I've never really heard of what you do.
Yeah.
So I'm interested specifically,
Right, oh yeah.
like everybody does that, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'm curious, and this might be putting you on the spot too much, but I'm wondering if there's a context that can quickly happen where I can see you do what you do, because it's very interesting.
Yeah. So to explain a little more, so I do, like I said, I'm a graphic facilitator, which means when people are having a meeting, usually, hopefully, it's sort of a strategy meeting, something at the beginning of a project, that kind of fuzzy front end. I'm at a big sheet of paper at the front of the room, 4 feet tall, 6 to 8 feet wide, and I'm actually mapping out people's conversations as they're talking. So I'm listening, and what I love about the work is I get to think and draw for a living, and I get to use my listening skills all together. One of my personal strengths is I'm really good at synthesis. So some folks who do the work, they're a little bit more like a stenographer. Well, they'll get a lot of the ideas down, but it'll be sort of like point. Because my brain is just wired for synthesis, a big thing I love is like listening for the patterns in a conversation, making the connections between things, and creating models, things like this. This object itself, show quadrant. It's very refined. It's trying to show a specific idea. When I'm doing this kind of work, it's very fast because it has to happen live in front of people. So I need better footage of me actually working live because it's always internal to customer events. But I think if you go to the site and check out the YouTube channel, there'll at least be more to give you a little better idea. Jill and Mary took a class with me, a 3-day immersion I do. Do you have it? What would you say about like what the heck this work is, and would you add to my boilerplate?
Yeah, I think I'm one of the people who are the chunk. I'm a strategic person. I work with strategy. So to echo what Brandy said, I attended the lab because what I really wanted to do was to help people see a bigger picture, and also to see the emergent ideas be in the conversation in a broader way. And the conversation, I guess the paradigm shift is that a conversation also includes visual imagery. So I think that is really what attracted me to it. And I've known Brandy for a number of years. She's been in rooms with me and with others where we're doing conferences, and so there's a real benefit to having her there, so that people who are visual learners and who come to thinking differently and making meaning differently are able to be in that evolution with her. And so that's what really attracts me to the work that she does. And I think she's on the frontier. I expect there'll be more people doing this work. And she's a pioneer in the Midwest. There's not many people like her doing what she's
Got a lot of territory.
That's great.
The West Coast is silly with people.
Jill might have something to say too, because Jill comes at it from a different direction.
Yeah.
I come at it from, I'm a graphic artist and sort of an illustrator, and I have no idea about structure or anything at all like this. But going to Brandy's lab was eye-opening, and it was seeing that this is a possible thing to do. You can actually make a career out of it. And having somebody like Brandy in the room at a meeting doing this changes everything. It makes it fun for the participants to see this thing afterwards?
It's, I think in meetings, folks, each person in the meeting has their own agenda, just because we naturally do. We have, we have our ideas we're coming in with, the politics of the organization, all that kind of stuff. The nice thing about my job is I come in as an outsider. And even if you're end up doing this kind of work internally, you have to try to be objective and act like an outsider, and sort of listen with outsider ears. And what I love is the work is completely tangible and transparent. So you have this conversation that's happening, and each person has their own stakes, but I don't. So I get to come in and listen sort of like to the whole conversation and make it tangible. The only, people always ask, well, like, who doesn't like this? What kind of companies don't like it? The only companies that are afraid of it are the ones that hate transparency. Because literally you're taking that conversation, sticking out a piece of paper. But for the most part, it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, that's what we said. So people can relate to their work in a new way because it's like it's right there in front of them. So yeah.
So let me just, Brandy, I'll just share a story to echo that. So yesterday I was graphic recording a meeting, and the women, career women, were talking about the challenges of being in a career and moving into administrative paths. They spoke about their children, and I graphic recorded their children. At the break, the man who was on the panel came over, grabbed a marker, and wanted to draw his children in. And I said, you didn't talk about your children. So they didn't get put on the page.
Yeah.
But big aha for him, right?
Yeah.
Widened his lens, his thinking, because there it was, he was able to see, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't in the story I was telling.
Yeah. Nice. Excellent. Yeah.
So I have two questions. First one's really easy. You are selling your book here today?
I'm not.
You're not?
Nope.
Okay.
Nobody was selling books, so I didn't want to set up a book.
No problem.
Yeah.
And then, so I've always been fascinated with this trend of going to a conference, people taking their notes, and they're all illustrated. And I'm always one of those people that gets a little bit too far, and then I have to go all the way back because there's a connection that my brain made, but I've already put pen to paper and I can't erase it.
Right.
What are some cool, or what's some tips and tricks that you would suggest, since you're synthesis, on how to correct that and make those opportunities available when you need to come back to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And sketch, folks heard the term sketchnoting. That's sort of the getting out your Moleskine and filling up pages when you're live in an event. And I love, it's another great technique to use. I'm so hyperspatial. Like I think everything in every dimension at once. There's a lot of good resources. Mike Rohde's book, who's somebody I think out over here. Who has Mike Rohde's book? I just wanted to show it. Yeah, so this book, that book is specifically about that kind of technique. I'm a huge fan of trying to use the whole page or a double page spread. And basically, Amy and Jill know that, or Mary and Jill know this, that I start in the middle. So even if, and it's a little tricky if you're actually using a small sketchbook, but I start in the middle because then I can work out any direction. So I treat the page differently than the normal. I loved Peter's examples. Was pretty much every example was a landscape format, because we spend what percentage of our time is really thinking in portrait format, which is linear, which is text-based. So the first thing is just turning the page so it's landscape, but then sort of like starting with the topic in the center and then moving anywhere you want to go. If you're learning mind mapping, that's super specific. That's literally, it's in the center, there's a branch, there's a branch, there's a branch. It's like a hub with spokes. But I'm a big fan of just kind of like letting it be organic and see where it goes. The converse, like when I do this with clients, sometimes I have, this is a terrible marker. I have charts I might start here and end up kind of going like this, so, okay, it went that direction. And that's totally fine. So I personally don't get too concerned about like it magically spreading perfectly compositionally over the page. So that's probably the quickest thing. Another thing is my best friends are 3x5 index cards because I work really modularly. So it's like, so then you have each chunk, like Peter was saying, like each idea was on a piece of paper. I'll do things on individual index cards, and then the great thing about that is you can shuffle them around, add things back in, but you're not fixed into sort of like, okay, I worked in a column, and now I want to put this over here, and there's no space for it. Does it help?
Yes.
Super. Yeah.
Do you generally work with a facilitator?
Yes.
So you don't do both?
No. I call myself the silent visual partner to a facilitator. So I know what the agenda is, roughly. I actually don't like to have a lot of information beforehand. I like to sort of come in fresh and just see what happens with the group. There are some folks who say the only people who call themselves graphic facilitators are the people who do both roles. I don't know how you do this, and you do this at the same time effectively. So for me, it's always about partnering with a facilitator. Any other questions, or should we do it? Yes.
Drawing on computers
Yes.
with tablets and touchscreens and crap like that.
Yep.
Is there anything that is good?
I like this. I can't. I mean, I'm not anti-technology at all.
But I mean, even like with
yeah.
a stylus and
Yeah.
a Wacom
I
tablet
haven't
or whatever.
personally, but I know I'm like so skewed so far on the tactile end. I still hand draw everything, and that's not. But I think there's something about your physical. I mean, this is what we forget with all this technology. We end up acting like a couple of hands and a brain, and there isn't the rest of us. So like for me, it's always about like how is my whole body doing this, using this process. So I mean, I'm sure there's people who find styluses that work a little better for them, but
I don't know.
I still know.
So
I mean,
I just don't
yeah.
think they exist.
Yeah, at this point, and I think there's also, because we're so trained to look at screens all the time, and obviously in the kind of work you do, you're always trying to get people more and more engaged. We're champions at tuning it out. Like there's something we are. It's and there's something abstract, there's something distant from us when it's this light being emanated from the screen that can't happen when you literally have this physical thing. So, yeah, I think it's just they're qualitatively different, and that's why with Peter's example, it's about bouncing between the two, so you're using both. So I'm hoping to hang one of these up in a common area with some Post-its. I'd love if people had questions or comments or what they think are in each quadrant. That'd be fantastic. And later this afternoon we're talking about helping people get over their fear of drawing, and so we get more people engaged with us in drawing more. Good? Good.